Is it an anglefish? I'm not actually sure. I just picked what I thought looked neat and what would be good for drawing. Our clownfish is still drying, so we want to be mindful of that, and it's separate, it's farther away. If we're ever talking about areas that are too close, you can just wait on those areas, or you can kind of leave a seam between them so that they don't touch each other when you're working on those areas. I can tell on this one that we have some dark spaces, and we also have some relatively light spaces through here. We also have a thing where we're messing with warm and cool colors. So the cooler colors are on like the bottom side of the fish, that's like closer to the shadowed areas, and we have more of this warm color up here. It looks like we might be having a warm light source coming from the top. So we have this brown that's fading from a warmer brown into a cooler brown. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of the browns that we had in there, and if it's not the exact same brown, that's fine. Just try and work with trying to mess with the temperature of your color. So any color you can take and add a little bit more blue to it and make it more of a cooler color, or you can add more yellow and make it more warmer. It's kind of what we're going to do here. So I'm going to mix up some of my brown, and this is, I believe I got burnt sienna. On the thing it said you could choose burnt sienna, burnt umber, it doesn't really matter. You pick yours, it's fine. So I have plenty of that bright, very orangey brown. What I'm also going to do is mix up my Payne's Gray, which is like the darkest color we have, but it's also a very, very cool dark color. We could have like lamp black or Mars black, which are much more warmer shades of black, or of the dark shades. I really just don't like to have black in watercolor. I think you can do better things by having to mix those colors than having it given to you. So I have those two mixed up. I also still have some of my yellow mixed up over here in case I need to lighten things up a little bit. What I'm actually going to start with, though, is probably adding in these cooler highlighted areas. I don't know if you can see my sketch very well. He's going to end up looking something like this, or even maybe like this. I like this one just a little bit better, where we can see some of those undertones. We're going to paint those in first to kind of get that shape in, and then we're going to go back in with our browns. So all I'm going to do first is I'm going to get a little bit of that Payne's Gray, water it down. If I wanted to, I could take a little bit of my phthalo blue or my ultramarine blue, either one. I like a little bit of that phthalo blue. It just makes it nice and bright. So I'm mixing that up. I'm getting water in this. I'm not making it dark. I am just making it a nice light grayish color through there. So I'm looking at this. I see that we have this little angle of what I'm going to call his jaw, because I don't know fish anatomy. I'm going to call that over there. And we have this cool color I'm going to put right in through here. And then we have this area where I've added in a little stripe. So I'm going to say underneath over here, add a little bit more of that blue. And we can always go over this later if it's not the right consistency, or even we can blend it in with those warmer colors and get kind of a neutral when we get there. Because I want it for later, I'm going to put a little of this through his whole outer ring of his eye. And then add that down here in through his little bottom fin area, I guess is what I'm going to call that. I have some residual learned behaviors from when I used to teach elementary school, and we'd always get them to make little noises when they did the painting, make a little whoop. I always have to stop myself from having to do it on here. Alright. That's good for that one for right now. If I wanted to add a little tiny bit through some of these bottom little bits, I could. But I do also want to leave some areas where it's just going to be a little bit of the white of the page. You want the white of the page to be able to do the work for you in a lot of these spots, so we're going to leave that. Now I'm going to take this, my brown, pull it through here, get a little bit of water in it. I'm also going to make it more of a cooler brown. See, that was way too much. I knew I had way too much on my brush. You can see that. I knew I had too much on my brush, so I just dabbed it over here, and then I'll get the residual over here. This is giving me a much cooler brown color. So there I've added a little bit more of the brown again. It's a little bit more orangey. If I add more of this Payne's Gray, it's going to cool down that color. So this is going to give us more of this is going to give us more of the darker brown color. I'm just going to just a little. So then I can go through and start adding in those areas that are going to have that darker color. Now I'm not outlining things. I'm not giving giant dark spaces. Just using my, and I touched that one. I got too close. I got too excited. And so now it's going to bleed into there. But I'm going to dry off my brush. Make that little dam through there. Hopefully it won't blend too far. So if I wanted to, I could go back through with some of this lighter brown and see how much of a difference there is between this one and that one. This has that cooler aspect to it. This is that much warmer brown. If I wanted to add a little bit of yellow, I could tone that back a little bit. And this is where you're going to get some really neat details of these fish paintings, where they can be a little bit different from what's on your picture. You can blend some of these together, let those kind of do their own thing, get some neat highlight colors, just do some playing around with it, because they're fish. There's no fish police. They're going to say, this needs to be this other color. No, just do it what you want. Now, I will say, I'm trying to have you do these different techniques so that you listen to the different techniques without having to do it with me in class. So there is that, but there's no official fish police that's going to tell you what you need to do where. A little bit of that dark on this little fish nose face thing there. So I'm going to go through, and I'm going to add these lighter areas through here, and then hopefully I will fast forward it so you don't have to watch it in real time, and then I'll come back when I'm ready to do the tail.
working on the tail through here, and you can see that there is a little bit of like striations through there. So we want to either do really, really teeny tiny strokes of that color before or after we do the water, because you can kind of see the water area back behind there. And if we don't leave those spaces, what you're going to have is like this really bright contrast between the blue of the water or the green of your water, whatever, and then the area of your fish. I tried to do a little bit through here, but as I've been going through this, it seems to be a little bit easier to do some of the detail of the tail first, but then really just kind of have a lot of the detail wait until after you've done the water, and just know that the water is going to be there around it. So if you wanted to do some medium or light detailing on the tail, just add those like nice little swoopies, and add those through if you want. I'm not going to cover all these up when I go to do my masking for the tail. I'll cover some of them maybe, but I'm not going to cover all of them because I want that blue, that water, to be able to show through some of them. Same thing with the stuff down here and the stuff over here. So that's our base of that fish. It's just a combination of little small detail pieces and bigger stroke pieces, and using the tip of your brush versus using the length of your brush. And whatever you do, just make sure that you're not leaning too heavy on your paper, because then you only have like a really small range of motion. If you can really get through there and move your whole arm, you have a lot better range of motion.